All right, everybody, welcome back to Across the Campus, your college sports podcast presented by atvsports.net. I'm Alex, the captain, and I'm joined today by AJ, the guru.
What's going on, everybody?
AJ, bowl season. Finally, we have waited how many weeks for bowl season? It's finally here.
We have, yes, and it is here. It's hard to believe it starts already tomorrow.
I know, with the Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl featuring Buffalo and Charlotte. So I guess let's just dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it. We talked about it here. Well, this is our third time attempting this podcast, so we've had some technical difficulties. We went into Buffalo and Charlotte here pretty heavily, but we need to do a quick recap. Buffalo and Charlotte both come in at 7-5, playing down there in the Bahamas. What a great place to be here, as it's cold and snowy here in the Midwest. Buffalo, though, is favored here by only 6.5 points, which I think it's a fair amount here for the being, a December 20th game.
Absolutely.
So I think 6.5 is fair there.
Well, and I think we briefly touched on this earlier. I think it's important to note Buffalo is very much a ground game kind of team, whereas Charlotte looks to be more of an air style team. So two contrasting styles. We'll see how it holds up. I think Buffalo held their own for a while in the MAC. And Charlotte, relative newcomer. I mean, they're new to the FBS. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they can do. They're both searching. Both programs are actually searching for their very first ever bowl win. So it'll be really exciting to watch that game.
Yeah.
That being said, the evening game, we have another MAC program, Kent State, taking on Utah State out of the Mountain West.
Can't read, can't write, Kent State.
Can't read, can't write, Kent State indeed. It's good to do this with a fellow MAC fan. But we got Utah State coming in. They are pretty hot. They've got their quarterback, Jordan Love, is passing for just over 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, but their kryptonite this year, his 16 interceptions. And I think that's going to potentially be the difference in this game, is if Kent State can force him into bad reads and bad situations. I don't think Kent State keeps up with this Utah State squad.
No, I don't think so either. Utah State's always one of those teams who, they'll play a big Power 5 school and, give them hell for a while. Yeah. And then obviously, it doesn't always translate into a win, but, they're always a team that sticks around.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think Kent State had a few unfortunate moments in their season. They are 6-6, a 2-point loss to Toledo, a close loss to Miami, a 7-point loss to Miami, but they finished the season strong the way it mattered, beating Eastern Michigan at the factory, beating Ball State at home, and beating Buffalo at home. So they did what they needed to do to finish out strong. The opposite can be said for a lot of other teams who didn't qualify for bowls or just missed bowls. Kent State did it right and finished out with 3 straight wins. So it'll be really exciting to see what happens here.
Yeah, I think so. It's the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Fresco Bowl. Tickets right now are $7.
You want to go?
What's that? Toyota Field. Where is Toyota Field?
Yeah, no, a game like that would be a lot of fun to be at. I went to the old, what was it called? The Motor City Bowl years and years and years ago in Detroit, and I got free tickets to that, so why not? It was a bowl game as an experience. I think we left shortly after halftime. It was, I want to say it was Central Michigan with Dan Lefevre, so there's a throwback name for you.
Sure.
Taking on Mid-Tennessee State, and I think Central Michigan ended up winning that game, but I just remember that was my very first bowl experience.
Yeah, my goal is to, get to a MAC championship when Ball State gets there someday. Yeah. As we talked about last week, I did the Big Ten championship. I go to that every year here in Indianapolis.
Well, yeah, because Ohio State's in it every year.
Exactly, and it's a quick trip for me. So I'm only exactly 2 hours from Lucas Oil. But I've been to a few bowl games over my lifetime. They're a lot of fun. We did the 04 Alamo Bowl, Ohio State, Oklahoma State. Speaking of throwback names, that was Les Miles last year at Oklahoma State.
Right.
Justin Zwick was our quarterback at Ohio State because Troy Smith was suspended.
That's a name.
That's a name.
For you Buckeye fans out there.
Ted
Justin
Ginn.
Zwick.
Ted Ginn was a receiver. I think Santonio Holmes was there. A.J. Hawk was there. Nick Mangold. I got Dustin Fox and Simon Frazier's autographs. I still have those.
Now, that was the year before... No, that was 2 years before Ohio State-Michigan had their 1-2 matchup, wasn't it?
Yes, I was at that game too, and I was 7.
Okay.
I was 7th game of the century. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first ever Ohio State Michigan game.
What a great game to be at.
Yeah, it was so cool too because after that game they were tearing up the grass and putting turf in, and so we were there. We got onto the field, and I pulled a big piece of turf off the grass.
I think I've seen that in your house. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's planted under our flag post at home. Still, 10, 13 years later now, it's still there.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But back
awesome.
to bowl games.
Back to bowl games. Sorry.
We're getting sidetracked. Yeah.
We have another. So that's it for tomorrow. So only 2 bowl games for tomorrow. But then Eastern Michigan, not Eastern Michigan. Central Michigan. Too many directional Michigans. New Mexico Bowl. Central Michigan, another MAC program, taking on San Diego State.
Yeah, they're giving San Diego State their 3.5 points.
I really like San Diego State in this one.
I think I took Central in the pick'em.
Okay. By the way, folks, for those listening, we do have our pick'em challenge. It is still open until tomorrow. We'll be posting the link with our podcast tomorrow so that you guys can get those entries in. We got a couple entries already chilling there, a few more coming in, so it's nice to see that. But I really like San Diego State, not because of their offense, but because of their defense. Their defense is allowing 12.8 points a game. Mm-hmm. I don't care who you are. 12.8 points per game is nothing to sneeze at. They're only allowing 288 yards per contest, like less than 100 rushing yards. Mm-hmm. Central Michigan not really known for their rushing. I mean, they almost won the MAC with their passing game, but I don't know.
So I really like the over here. Over-under is at 41. I really like that over.
Yeah, I like the over too. I feel like this one's going to be a higher scoring contest than what people are giving them credit for. But I just don't know. I think that, you look at San Diego State's recent scores. They've lost to Nevada 17-13, lost to Hawaii 14-11. Like, they're not letting people, they're not scoring, but they're also not letting people put up a bunch of points. BYU only scored 13 on them. So this San Diego State team, their offense is very clearly their weakness. Mm-hmm. So we'll just have to see, I guess, what they can end up doing.
Yeah, Central in the year is averaging 445 yards per game.
Yeah,
258 through the air, 186 on the ground, and averaging about 32 points a game. Yeah. San Diego State comes in averaging 19 points a game, giving up 12. But points allowed for Central is a little up there at 26.8.
Yeah, they're a little bit leaky on defense, but the offense has been able to pace them, to get them to an 8-5 record. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. It's
hard. Some of these early games too. It's so hard to come up with something because these guys aren't on TV. We know the MAC. We know the MAC schools because we follow the MAC, but. At San Diego State, I remember they had that Penny kid a couple years ago who ran all over the country.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Some of those schools just don't get that recognition, especially the next game we go into, Liberty versus Georgia Southern. I only know Liberty because Hugh Freeze is their coach.
Yep.
And he coached a game from his hospital bed in the booth.
I know Georgia Southern because I remember watching them play BG in football a few years ago.
They played Ball State, too.
And I remember that. They just laid a smackdown on Bowling Green.
Yeah, they laid one on us too.
Yeah, so they're one of those Conference USA teams who is consistently strong. I feel like we don't give Conference USA, or are they Sun Belt? I think they're Conference USA. No, I think Liberty's Conference USA.
Yeah, they're Conference USA, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I don't know. Georgia State is just one of those schools that you don't really
Georgia
think
Southern
of.
is the Sun Belt.
That's right. So, sorry about that mix-up there, everybody. But, yeah, Georgia Southern they're one of those Sun Belt programs who, very much like Appalachian State, always consistently tough in that conference. Sure, they're sitting at 7-5. I don't think that I think Liberty's excited to be at this bowl game, but I don't think that they have that edge to get the W.
Right. Yeah, here Georgia Southern comes in 4-point favorites. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair number. I think too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, this is one of those games too that's on the CBS Sports Network at 2:30, and it's the FBC Mortgage Cure Bowl.
Yeah, we're gonna have a talk about some of these names.
Yeah. And we're moved down here to the Boca Raton Bowl. FAU SMU. FAU doesn't have to travel far at all.
No, not at all.
FAU comes in 10-3. SMU 10-2. SMU had a really good year too, and it's kind of surprising that they're, playing the Boca Raton Bowl. Now, one of FAU's losses was to Ohio State, and then Lane Kiffin's gone already, so he's not coaching the bowl game. And SMU here is 3-point favorites.
Yeah, I like SMU in this one just
me too.
because the Mustangs have been working so hard to rebuild. After that death penalty they got, back in the 80s?
Yeah.
They've worked
Pony
so
Express.
hard. Yeah. They've worked so hard to become a power.
And they played Memphis extremely well.
They looked really good against Memphis.
That was on college. That was game day night. That was a primetime game on game day.
Yeah, they lost to Memphis, but 6, 7? Yeah, 6.
Something like that, yeah.
54-48. And
yeah, they looked really good.
They lost at Navy this year by 7, which those are SMU's 2 losses. Mm-hmm. A combined 13
and Navy's
points.
No slouch.
Yeah, combined 13 points to 2 ranked programs, 2 top 25 ranked programs. So SMU looks really good in this. They're averaging 43 points a game. A little squishy on defense, 31.8, but they're just absolutely slaying people with the passing game. 310 passing yards per game.
Here you go. Get this. The over-under 69.5.
Ooh, I like that over. I really do.
Like that. I do too, yeah.
Especially with Florida Atlantic, you've got Chris Robinson. He's thrown up 26 touchdown passes. You've got Shane Buechele for
and both these guys are over 3,000 yards passing. Buechele's coming up on 4,000.
Yeah, this is not going to be a low-scoring affair.
No,
by
33
any means.
touchdowns to 26.
Yeah,
Jones, running back for SMU, has 21 touchdowns. Davidson for FAU has 9.
Yep.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I like that over in that one too.
Yeah, no, I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I think whoever has the ball last is the team that takes the
that,
W.
or it's going to come down to a turnover or a late field goal, something like that.
Something stupid like a 53-50 kind of game or something.
Yeah.
And you love to see it. It's bowl mania. You just love to see it.
Yeah. Well, we keep moving down here again. We get into kind of our first ranked team, number 19, Boise State. They're going to take on Washington at the Mitsubishi's Motor Las Vegas Bowl.
Yep.
Now, I do not know how a 12-1 team is playing in the Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl against a 7-5 Washington.
3 words, AJ. Group of 5.
Group of 5. Yeah. And Boise State's only favored by 3.5. That's I don't like that at all.
No.
49.5 over under. But I don't like that 3.5 at all.
Well, and I think you have to look at it, right? Boise State for the last 15 years have essentially been the darling of the Group of 5 programs. I think there's no denying that Boise State has consistently been the champion of the Group of 5, right? And you just look at what they've done on this season, and Boise State has not been as impressive, I don't think, as they have in years past. They're not blowing away opponents. They won against Marshall 14-7. They beat Florida State 36-31. Air Force they beat by 11. Hawaii they beat 59-37 in the regular season, and then they beat them pretty heavily in the conference championship game. Mm-hmm. But they're just not blowing people away. It took them overtime to beat Wyoming. Only beat San Jose State by 10.
10, yeah.
Lost to Brigham Young. This is not the same dominant Boise State team that we've seen in years past.
Mm-hmm. It's that Mountain West.
Love the Mountain West.
And this would be cool for Chris Peterson, too, it being obviously his last game.
Yep.
And him getting his start at Boise State.
Yeah, he's had
a
hell of a career.
Mm-hmm. I think he's going to administration at the school now, from what I hear.
Good for him. I think he's done a lot for that program, done a lot for college football in general, honestly. Sure. And so that'll be really exciting for him to hopefully get a W to finish it out.
Absolutely. Move down here to the next game, ranked 20th, Appalachian State, 12-1. They're going to take on UAB at 9-4. The R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl.
And Appalachian State, this is a pretty wide margin, 16.5 point favorites.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And
I'd take it though.
I'd take it, and I was going to say I don't think it'll be that close, unfortunately.
Over under is 47.5.
Yeah, UAB, you've had a great season. 9-4, nothing to sneeze at.
From not having a program through 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, like Appalachian State is just, they're turning into a machine.
Yeah,
whatever they've been doing since 2007, and then moving into the FBS, they've just continued to find success, and it's kind of cool to see, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they've been consistent too since 2007.
Yeah,
they're always sticking around. They're always one of those teams, like a trap game. When you play them, it's like a trap game because they're always one who can compete.
Yeah, you don't want to put your bad foot forward against Appalachian State because they'll take it. They'll run with it.
Move down here now to the 3-loss. This is one we haven't heard in a while. A 3-loss UCF squad. They're going to take on Marshall in the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl.
Sure, let's call it that.
Sounds good to me. That's Monday the 23rd at 2:30 kickoff on ESPN. UCF is favored by 17 points. Over under 61.5. I like that.
I'll take that. I don't think Marshall is a high-powered offense, but I think they play a little bit of smart defense. That offense can get going when you need it to. Just taking a look at UCF really quick, some of their scores. They've had tough losses to Cincinnati, Memphis, Tulsa towards the end of the season. But then you look at Marshall, they've got an overtime win against FIU. They lost by 11 to Charlotte. Big win over LA Tech. Big win over Rice, WKU. These programs they're playing Marshall tough. But Marshall can put up the points when they need to. They've got a big win over OU out of the MAC. I don't know. I like the over-under. I don't think that UCF loses this game, but I do think that it is a closer than indicated final score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 17 points there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you take that.
No.
Tough.
I think it'll be within 10 points, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. And that's kind of the bummer thing is too. It's the only game on Monday, and then you go to Tuesday. There's only one game, which we'll get into next. Hawaii and BYU. Hawaii, they're 9-5. BYU travels out there to the island at 7-5 in the SoFi Hawaii Bowl. I feel bad for Hawaii. They're in that bowl game every year.
They like playing at home.
They do. I mean, because I remember. I don't know, just suck. I would think anyway as a player because you want to get out and go to different bowl games. That's kind of your goal, and you're stuck. Well, I guess Hawaii wouldn't have many people travel. I'm assuming.
No,
and so that's probably why they do it. But you look at the schools like Army; they had to travel from West Point, New York, all the way out to Hawaii.
Yeah,
brutal.
Well, yeah, that's a huge road trip. Well, sorry, air trip for that game. And I think you look at Hawaii, it sucks for them because they don't leave the island, but you got to look at these other teams who are going in there to play. How many of them are going to get the opportunity to go to Hawaii for football? Mm-hmm. Sure, it's not the most attractive bowl game. It's the it's like the
that
Hawaii Bowl.
It's like that in the Bahamas Bowl.
Yeah, you're leaving continental U.S. to go play football, and for some of those kids, that's a lot of those guys won't make the NFL. That's a pretty big deal for them. So
it's a free trip to Hawaii. So
exactly, yeah.
But yeah, right. BYU is favored by only 2 points there. Over under on that is 64. A lot of high numbers here.
Well, and
but I take that under though. I'd think
I take the under for sure, but I think you have to look at it as well. How often does ESPN and these college football analysts, how often do they sit there and say, oh yeah, based off of this really accurate information we know about Louisiana Tech or Marshall, can we say it'll be a closer score?
Right.
They're tossing coins. I mean, they're flipping a coin. Oh, heads, sure, we'll say this. They're not really giving it. its due diligence, which is something we can talk about a little bit later. But I think it's because these aren't all big name programs, they're not putting the time to really put the analysis there.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a prime time 8 o'clock game, which will be nice too going into the holiday there. As we mentioned here, that's the only game on the 24th. We skip Christmas Day. We're going to the 26th here. Louisiana Tech, they take on Miami in the Walk-Ons Independence Bowl. Miami's 6-point favorites there. Louisiana Tech's 9-3 in Miami. Everybody says it's Miami's year. Everybody says, "Oh, Miami's, they're back," and they're sitting there 6-6.
I was going to say, how many years have we heard that though?
Well, then it was crazy too. Ohio State had a 5-star recruit in Tate Martell. He wasn't going to play, so we transferred to Miami. Another quarterback transferred to Miami. That quarterback won the job, and Tate moved between wide receiver and quarterback, and then hasn't shown up for like a month.
Yeah,
and then it was funny. I saw on I can't remember. I think it was Twitter maybe that Tate's dating this Instagram model, and this Instagram model and Tate's mom got into it.
No,
and they don't like each other.
Oh my gosh!
And so I was talking to my buddy about that, and he's like, "Heck, I'll let that model feud with my mom any day. I'm dating an Instagram model. Do your thing." But yeah, Tate's left a few times for personal reasons or whatever. But yeah, he went down there to be the starter. Transferred out of Ohio State, went down there to be the starter. That didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's tough for him. I get, you left Ohio State to try to go and be a starter somewhere else. Get your name out there, whatever it is. So I do feel bad for the kid because he's not a bad athlete.
He's not, but he's not a Power 5 quarterback, though.
No, he's not. He's definitely a G5 quarterback, and that's okay. Those guys succeed, a.k.a. Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, that's just one example, but, I mean, those guys succeed at the next level if you put in the time and the work, He
was a quarterback who never lost a game in high school. Yep. He was on that QB1 documentary on Netflix that first season.
Okay.
And he was one of the guys they followed around. But, yeah, he was never going to be a starter at Ohio State when you have, Cardell Jones, and then J.T. Barrett, and Dwayne Haskins, and now Justin Fields. He was never going to start. Yeah, even with Joey Burrow in that locker room, he was never going to start.
Yeah, you're the seventh string quarterback in that locker room with those names. You're not bad, but you're just not good.
Now he would have been, if he's the Las Vegas kid, Bishop Gorman, he would have been great at UNLV or or else a Fresno State or
absolutely one of those Mountain West
something like that. Yeah. Even a TCU probably would have been all right.
Yeah, over in the Big 12, that would have been a solid fit for him. Wouldn't have won the conference, but would have played well and got him to a solid record, I think.
Yeah.
So that's in the Walk-Ons Independence Bowl, like you said. I do like Miami in that game, I think, just because Louisiana Tech, sure, they're 9-3. They're a Conference USA school. I'm not convinced, I think I take Miami. I really do.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, they're sitting there at 6-6, but they're also one of those teams that can just show up out of nowhere and get a W. And that's probably what they could do here. I mean, Louisiana Tech, you look at that schedule, you look at who they've beaten this past year at 9-3. Yeah, they lost to Marshall 31-10. They lost to UAB 20-14.
Yep.
There's some losses there to some teams that they probably shouldn't.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Where's the third loss at? And I mean, they beat Bowling Green earlier this year, 35-7.
Yep.
They beat Grambling. They lost to Texas at the beginning of the year, 45-14. And they have the same record really as Texas now, don't they? Oh, they have a better record than Texas.
Yeah, Texas finished 7-5 if I remember correctly. Yeah. But you look at Miami. They beat Florida State. They beat Louisville. Sure, they lost to Duke and FIU at the end of the season, but Miami was a touchdown away from beating FIU to put them at 7-5. This team isn't a bad team, third in the ACC in the Coastal Division, but a 4-point loss to Florida to start the season, a 3-point loss at North Carolina, a 7-point loss to Virginia Tech. Florida can show up and play some football. They're not a slouch. So or Miami, sorry, not Florida. Miami can show up and play some football. So I don't think that it'll be LA Tech's game to run away with. I think if they get up early, and Miami has to play catch up, sure, Miami's in trouble. But I think Miami plays in a tougher conference, better football. I think that Miami takes this one.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, the last bowl game. It looks like we'll just cover through the 26th then.
Yeah.
The last bowl game of the day. Another MAC program, finally. Eastern Michigan. Sorry, my computer froze. If I can pull it back up here.
Eastern Michigan plays Pittsburgh in the
Thank you.
Quick Lane Bowl.
Yep.
That's in Detroit, isn't it?
Yes, that's essentially a home game for Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, Ford Field. Yeah, tickets are as low as $11.
Tempted to go.
Over under 49. Pittsburgh's favored by 10.5.
Right.
Money lines at 420, minus 420 for Pitt, and money lines plus 340 for Eastern. I like Pitt in this one. I like their coach.
Okay.
I mean, and Pickett here for Pitt. He's thrown for 2,700 yards in the year.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't really ran the ball too much. Davis here, 126 carries for 532 yards,
Sure.
4 touchdowns. And Mack, 62 receptions for 711 yards, only 2 touchdowns. But yeah, I mean, there's really, statistically, it's not that of an intriguing game.
It really isn't. I think the big advantage for Eastern is that it's a home game, so hopefully they can get some of their fans to turn out. I mean, it's just a quick 30-minute drive to Detroit.
Yeah. They're in Ypsilanti, right?
Yeah, I mean, so they're right there in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
So you got to hope that their fans who are in the area will show up for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh's got to do a little bit more traveling, which still just a short road trip.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Pittsburgh is definitely the superior opponent in this game. I don't think it's as close as what the scoreline says. I think Pitt wins this probably by 14.
Yeah, that's probably I would guess too. And the over unders at 49.
Yep.
So, not too intrigued by that one.
Yeah. Well, cool. That wraps it up for the bowl
I'm not a
games.
degenerate gambler. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for the bowl games there. Let's dive into the 1AA playoffs here.
Yeah.
We've got the semifinals. The 21st. We've got North Dakota State taking on Montana State. I know this one has particular appeal to you.
It does, yeah. North Dakota State only put up 9 points on Illinois State last week. 9-3 was the final score of that one.
That was a close one. Field goals all day.
Which I think that really surprised a lot of people. NDSU has kind of ran over everybody throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
But Montana State looked really good against the Generals from Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I'm blanking their name right now.
You're fine. I know.
But yeah,
I know
they
you're
looked really
talking
good.
about.
They ran the ball extremely well. Defense was kind of spotty there at the beginning of the ball game.
Mm-hmm.
But then JMU, I mean, they've been running the table for the past couple of years.
JMU looks really good.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, then Weber State, they beat Montana.
Yeah, they did.
That was a snowstorm.
Well, yeah, that was the big snowstorm, and they didn't throttle them, but they controlled that game from start to finish.
Yeah, they really did. Montana couldn't get anything going there.
Nope.
But yeah, I'm excited to watch Montana State, North Dakota State on. I think that's a noon game on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So that'll be fun to watch at the Fargo Dome up there in North Dakota.
Yeah, that'll be a good time for sure. And then JMU obviously taking on Weber State. I like JMU, so fun little history high school story for you. So my high school marching band, I know, big nerd here. We did a 007 halftime show, and I'll never forget when our director brought out the music for us to march to and listen to and practice. They always started out with, now presenting the JMU Marching Royal Dukes, and then they launched right into the James Bond theme. Yeah. And I'll never forget that. And from that moment on, JMU became one of my favorite college marching bands because I absolutely loved that show. So, a little bit of a nerd moment there, but JMU, I love the Dukes. They've got some good football down in 1AA. So
yeah, they do, and it's gonna be it's nice because these games are on Saturday, so it makes the day nice for us.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that will be nice. So having those games on, and like I said, we're excited to watch the Bobcats. This is the furthest they've been in a very long time.
I was gonna say it's been probably 10 years or so.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Division II playoffs. It's the championship. We've got Minnesota State taking on West Florida. I'm going to admit I don't know anything about West Florida. I know a little bit about Minnesota State because of Adam Thielen.
Yeah, exactly. Minnesota State's always been solid. They see. I know more about D3 than I do D2.
Yeah, same.
Down there in the Stag Bowl. But yeah, Minnesota State, they've always been solid. They kind of have controlled the Division II here the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, they've I didn't again, they're a name I know.
Yeah,
I don't know much about them except for Adam Thielen played there and is now playing well in the NFL. He's hurt right now, but he's playing
just down
really
the road
well.
too.
Yeah,
in Minneapolis. So. But yeah, the D3, Wisconsin Whitewater, North Central Illinois. I've always paid attention to D3. Obviously, won Mount Union. It's always fun to pay attention to those guys. But I had friends who played at Wabash.
Yeah,
and this is when Wabash was really good from 2011 to 14, 15, somewhere in there.
Okay,
and they lost to Mount Union usually every year in the semifinals.
Well, and that's like Mount Union has been they've been that staple of excellence. Like everybody always jokes with them. Mount Union is just Ohio State's rejects. And you laugh at that, right? But it's so true. Like, how many of those guys could be playing on Division I programs?
Oh yeah,
even like a Group of 5 program. How many of those guys could be playing at that level consistently?
And even they even produced good coaches. I mean, Matt Campbell, he's a Mount Union guy. Wabash's coach that recruited my brother actually to Wabash, he was a Mount Union guy.
Okay.
And I don't know if he's still there or not anymore, but yeah, he was a Mount Union guy as well.
Larry Kurz, like that coaching tree is just insane.
His son's still the coach there?
Yes.
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, hey, son, here's the keys to the kingdom. Don't mess it up.
And Larry sits in the press box.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Like Mount Union they've created that culture ever since the divisional split, and they've just been, like I said, a staple of excellence in Division III. But
they have. But
Wisconsin Whitewater,
they're just there every year.
They are. They've been the upstart dynasty in Division III. North Central Illinois, I've been impressed with them. I've seen them over the years kind of fluctuate. They've made the quarterfinals and then the semifinals. Now they're making the finals this year. They, from what I remember watching them when I was at Ohio Northern, they love to throw the ball. They don't hit you with the ground game. They will throw and throw and throw and force you to play catch up. And that's the one thing they're really good at. I mean, they did it to Mount Union here in the playoffs, beat them 59-52. Like, this is an air raid team, so it'll be interesting to see if Whitewater can slow them down or if North Central Illinois is going to capture a national championship.
Yeah, I mean, those are two teams that are going to put up a lot of points, I think, a lot of yards, too. Yep.
Who do you like in that one? If you had to just
I like Wisconsin Whitewater.
Whitewater, okay.
Yeah, I think they're the most consistent.
Most consistent for sure. I like them because of the experience. The North Central kids, they're playing in their first national championship game. At least this squad is. I don't know their history of the program, but I think these kids, that excitement of playing for it all.
Yeah.
Whitewater's been there.
And I just Googled it too here. The Stag Bowl last year and this year is in Texas.
Yeah.
It's usually in Virginia, right?
Yeah, it's usually in Salem, Virginia. It's down in Texas. And I don't know why they changed it, but it's been in Virginia for like the last 25 years or something. It's
down in Salem. Pretty crazy. Yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah. Huh. So that'll be interesting to see. Hopefully it's a little bit nicer weather. Maybe that's the thought there. Reward these kids with a trip to somewhere sunny. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, I think I like Wisconsin Whitewater in that one.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, they're always there, the most consistent. Yeah, it's kind of hard to bet against them.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Let's move on let's just talk about some college basketball real quick. I know you and I aren't totally versed in that, but we can kind of talk about it.
It's one way we can put it nicely is it's scary to be a top 5 team because chances are you'll lose.
Oh my goodness, yeah, absolutely. It's been absolutely
Buckeyes
insane.
Lost last week to Minnesota. Duke's lost. Michigan State lost at the beginning of the year.
Kentucky's
lost.
Michigan's lost a couple since that.
Louisville's lost.
Yep.
So it's just really not a good place to be in the top 5.
I was going to say North Carolina started in the top 5 this year too, right?
Yeah, and Ohio State beat them.
Yeah,
they waxed them.
It's been, so watch out, Kansas. Watch out. All these programs sitting in that top few spots. It's going to be really interesting to see how the season plays out. Maryland is on the border of being in the top 5. So, I don't know. It's
I'm heading down to Bloomington in June for the Ohio State IU game.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
So, of course, that's in the middle of June, I believe. So
okay,
that'll be fun. But yeah, just kind of you don't want to be a top 5, top 7 school right now.
No, absolutely not.
You're gonna get beat. So that's been the trend.
Well, and it's part of that whole out of conference schedule. I mean, I'm looking through conference standings right now. So few conferences have even started conference play, and even if they have, you're either 100% or you're 0%. You've only played like 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
The Big Ten, like you said, being one of the few that have started conference play.
And here, it's cool. It's nice this weekend, too, because Saturday, Ohio State plays Kentucky. It's a 5 versus 6 in the CBS Sports Classic.
That'll be a good
game. The Buckeyes are 10-1. Kentucky's 8-2.
Yeah, that'll be a really solid matchup.
And then the Crossroads Classic is fun, too, this week. IU and Notre Dame, and then Purdue and Butler down in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil. Or I can't remember if they're playing that at Lucas Oil or Bankers Live. They kind of alternate that just because there's so many people. They'll put a court in Lucas Oil. But let's see where
I did want to talk about while you're looking that up. James Wiseman, he's leaving Memphis.
Yeah,
that was really surprising.
It makes sense though.
It really does
because he knows he's going to be a top 5 pick, and he's going to be sitting out half the year for some BS reasons.
Yeah.
What was it that his coach helped him move?
Yeah, the coach helped him move.
But because he's an alum.
Yeah, it's
a Memphis alum.
So I mean, even Memphis is looking to still face punishment.
Yeah.
For all of that, and I think that's. And you and I could probably do a whole month of episodes on the corruption of the NCAA. So I won't go too far into it, but I think you look at the way they treat the athletes. They don't look at them as human beings, right? They look at them as people who are going to bring them money, and how dare you make money for yourself? How dare you do anything because you have a star name? How dare you do A, B, and C? Like, if you take a cup of water from somebody for free, the NCAA is going to crack down on you, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is, and these guys it's going to become more of a trend now. They're either going to go overseas out of high school and play professionally for a year or two, or go to school and just say screw it and leave in the middle of the year because they basketball is one of those sports where it doesn't matter your size; they're going to build you.
Absolutely,
in that level.
Yep.
So it's a bad look on the NCAA's part.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, that's all I had for men. Women, not much has changed. I'm just kind of scrolling through some of these standings here. The women's tournament is usually pretty consistent with, you've got UConn, you've got Notre Dame. Like, those teams are always going to be at the top. You got Baylor in the top 10 right now. I personally want to invest more time in getting to watch the women's games because I do find them more technically. I appreciate them on a more technical level.
Right.
I feel like Indiana's women are off to a hot start. Hot start at 10-1 right now. You got 4 teams in the Big Ten ranked in the top 25. Indiana at 12, Maryland at 13, Michigan at 24, and Michigan State at 19. So the Big Ten will obviously be a conference to watch. Yeah, I mean, these women's programs, you've got a lot of really, really talented teams, but at the end of the day, I mean, we know who's going to be in the Final Four.
Right.
It's always pretty consistent. Some variance occasionally, but you're never surprised when you see that tournament.
Like a Texas A&M or a Stanford sneak in there.
Right. And you would expect that based off of how they're playing.
Right.
But it's not like, I think you'd be more surprised if UConn isn't in the Final Four. Right. I think that's really where it is at this point. So
it's just more surprising if they even lost a game.
Yeah, seriously, like they were the ones who had that ridiculous 98 game win streak or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. And I remember ESPN covering that like crazy. Mm-hmm. So that was a pretty cool thing. I think that really kind of does it for scores updates for basketball. Obviously, we talked bowl games. Speaking of which, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we are still taking entries into our Pick'em Challenge. We will be doing a free T-shirt for the overall winner of the Pick'em Challenge. So listeners, please get your entries in by 2 o'clock tomorrow. It does lock at 2 o'clock, so after 2 o'clock, no more entries. It is a straight up pick 'em, no confidence picks, nothing. It's a straight up, this team wins, this team loses pick. So get them in. I saw your bracket was in. Your contest entry was in.
Yep, a couple days ago.
Yeah, so glad to see that. Like I said, we got about 7 or 8 right now. A few more are going to be filtering it over the next couple of hours, hopefully. And yeah, I'm excited to see. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top. If anybody can top us, hopefully we have somebody be somewhat competitive with us. But we'll see what happens.
Right, I didn't think I had too many upsets in mine either.
I picked a couple upsets that I kind of felt. I don't want to say with confidence, but more like I think this team could do this if A, B, and C happen.
Right.
I definitely picked heavily in favor of the MAC and the Big Ten. A little bit of homer bias, but I don't think I picked Michigan to beat Alabama. I
didn't do that, and I didn't pick Illinois to beat Cal either.
Nope. And because those were, it's hard to. Cal looked really good at the beginning of the season.
Illinois has their moments.
Exactly.
They're sitting there at 6-6, but didn't they get hammered by Northwestern?
Yeah, they got blasted by Northwestern.
But
then they beat Wisconsin. So
exactly. And then Northwestern's one of those programs too. They won the Big Ten. They were in the Big Ten championship last year, and they won 2-3 wins this year.
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
Yeah, welcome to college football.
And the Big Ten West isn't that competitive.
No, it's really not.
Nebraska's down. Nebraska's down. Minnesota was up.
Minnesota was really up.
Yeah, and then
Wisconsin,
Iowa,
obviously.
They're Iowa hit or miss. So yeah, Wisconsin obviously winning or going to the Big Ten championship. I don't know. And Purdue, they're just they're a different story.
How happy are you that Ohio State avoided Purdue this year?
It's nice. The past two times I've been to that game, they've lost, so I refuse to go to West Lafayette ever again.
There you go.
Even though West Lafayette is a good time, I've had a lot of fuzzy nights there on campus, to say the least. But yeah, it's
one too many adult root beers.
Pretty much how it goes. That and a triple X burger. But yeah, that's really about it.
Speaking of burgers, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. You and I are taking a trip to Alliance sometime where Mount Union is at. There's a restaurant called Doug's 57 Classic.
Yeah.
I love that place.
Mm-hmm.
They have the best burgers. And then the basket of butter fries, they have a contest. You eat one of their burgers, a basket of the butter fries, and then drink a liter of root beer, I think within 20 minutes. And you get a t-shirt and you get a picture of you up on the wall of fame, and then they buy your meal for you.
Buy your meal, huh?
So their burgers are really good. But the butter fries, that's where it's at. They do fries right there.
Yeah, and we always like to do when we're in Columbus. We go to Thurman's Cafe a lot.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Down in Germantown, that's really good too, because that place they have the Thurman Burger and the Thurminator, and the Thurminator was their massive burger. It's got ham and all this egg thing on it. It's a bunch of stuff.
Very nice.
But that burger was designed for the Arnold Classic, the bodybuilding competition.
Oh,
all these bodybuilders wanted a big burger, for protein, and then they go, oh wait, Thurman's goes, oh wait, we can do this, and so they made these massive burgers, and then it kind of stuck. So
that's insane.
It's a little place in Germantown, down in Columbus, over by the brewery district. And we go there every time I'm in town, and it's a blast. You walk out, the meat sweats. It's great.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, see, and that's the kind of stuff I love. It's not good for the heart, but, man, it's good for the stomach.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, our Beard Brothers over at Beard Brothers Fantasy Football Podcast fired back.
Yeah, so you're going to have to fill me in on this, because these guys have way too much time to be tweeting and doing podcasts. I don't have that kind of time.
Right.
To keep up with it, so you're going to have to fill me in.
So, essentially, what I got from them is from their podcasts, and those of you who don't follow them, you can follow them on Twitter at BeardBrosFF. Really great guys with their fantasy football stuff. They really know what they're talking about. They want to see your fantasy football team, by the way, AJ. They want you to prove that your team is better than anything that they've put together.
That's fine.
But no, they came out firing again, and AJ, who God love him, he said that, as I've mentioned in all of my tweets and GIFs and blah, 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 there may be two AJs, but there can only be one. And he said that you said the most boomer thing in the world. There's going to be two hits, me hitting him, hitting the floor. So he said, okay, boomer. So I'm just reiterating what AJ said.
Interesting.
But no, we for those listening at home, we do have a little rivalry with them, and but it's all in good fun. I really love them. You know, they're both great guys. Like I said, they know their fantasy football stuff. AJ, you got dragged into this because your name is AJ. I'm so sorry. I was not expecting this.
Yeah, like they were tweeting me a couple days ago, and I was busy doing other stuff, and I kind of lost track of it all because it was a lot.
Yeah.
But I saw something too. It was like I had to follow them or accept their request.
Yeah.
To see my tweets, which I had done. Like,
well, I guess what it was is you followed them and they accepted, but they followed you back and you didn't accept them right away. I think is what it was.
But even after I would accept them, they would have seen the tweets though.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
But like I said, for those listening, we are going to be doing a joint podcast with them at some point.
Okay.
We're going to be doing, I don't know, Dylan was talking about doing some kind of joint contest where we all end up asking each other a bunch of questions, and it's like a team effort, you know, make it a little fun, a little interesting.
Newlywed game?
Yeah, some kind of style like that.
Yeah.
One of their friends, they were talking about getting it to host, and we do it live, and it'd be a lot of fun. So
yeah.
I think they've got some good ideas, and we'll see what happens. But
I'm down for that.
Yeah, man. So a couple shout-outs here. Obviously, one, AJ, you have been awesome. I don't think I give you enough credit for your football knowledge.
It's been a lot of fun.
You have been a lot of fun to have as
hard to believe football
co-host.
season's kind of coming to an end.
It breaks my heart, but, you know, now we got to talk about some college basketball. We're going to look at March Madness. We can talk about future draft pools. We can get your friend on for wrestling.
Yeah, we got professional wrestling coming on here. I was actually just talking to him today because I'm at his wedding in September, so we're trying to get all that stuff figured out. And he's in my wedding 2-3 weeks later. So
okay, yeah.
I have to fly to Florida for a nice weekend with him.
Yeah, that'll be great.
And then he flies back up here for ours, which you'll be at.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
But yeah, so I mean, we've got a bunch of stuff,
and we're doing it in an area where you know too well. So.
Oh yeah. So no, I'm super excited for all of that. We're gonna have the opportunity to really get some different guests on, potentially get some NFL guys on. You know, no promises, listeners. We're just throwing ideas out. Maybe we can talk about draft class. Actually, that could be one of our episodes we do with the Beard Brothers. We talk about draft class and their fantasy potential. Like, that'd be a fun little crossover, I think.
Sure.
So yeah, but I wanted to give a shout out to ATB Sports. Make sure you guys go check them out. Articles coming out all the time. Podcast across the Jags, across the Cavs. The ATB Sports Pod, Beard Brothers Fantasy Football Podcast. Like I said, all these guys working together to pump out some quality products for everybody to listen to. You can follow us on Facebook at the Across the Board for all those articles, all those podcast links. Follow ATB Sports Net on Twitter, and then you can follow that main podcast Twitter at ATB Sports Pod. Obviously, follow us on Twitter at Across the Campus, where we're always posting not only our podcast, our articles, but also different things from around college football, college volleyball, college basketball. Like, we're really trying to make sure we include as many different college sports as possible. We don't want to be so focused on just one thing that we alienate an audience. So make sure you guys listen out there. We appreciate it. Like I said, Beard Brothers, follow them. You know, all jokes aside, they really know their stuff. So just give them a listen to, a shout out. And then one of our account fans, Steffi Tweets, Stepphie Tweets. She is a Bills fan who is just constantly tweeting up and down a storm, talking about college football, talking about Bills football, the NFL. She actually just got a picture of her tweet hung in a museum in Buffalo.
I saw that.
And
interesting.
And so, for those of you interested, check that out on Twitter. We've got that tweeted everywhere. She's been talked about on the Pat McAfee show. Like, I mean, it's been a really big deal for her, so she's really excited about that.
Good deal.
But yeah, AJ, I think that's going to do it for us.
Sounds Sounds good, man.
Cool. Like I said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and be sure to check us out on all those platforms. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks.
See you.